All right, science and nature. 1. What did Environment Canada rank as the country's top weather story of 2025? Unsurprisingly, it's Canada's second worst wildfire year on record. As you know, the fires were devastating in Canada this year. And in fact, the worst year was in 2023, the second worst being in 2025. It's not a great sign when two of the worst years are within a 3-year period. I'm hoping that 2026 is a bit more favorable to people because the smoke this year traveled literally hundreds and even thousands of kilometers over entire provinces. The last little fun fact I have for you is that the area that burned was bigger than all of New Brunswick, which is astounding. 2. In February, Montreal saw a record breaking snowfall within a 4-day period. To the nearest 10 centimeters, how much snow fell in 4 days, which included 2 major storms? So I did bring a ruler just for fun. This is 20 centimeters. This is 50. So how much do you think fell in just a 4-day period? Well, although it's not as bad as in New Brunswick or in Newfoundland, within those 4 days, there was a total of, wait for it, 75 centimeters, which is over 2 feet. For Montreal, it's quite a lot. And you should give yourself a point if you're within 15 centimeters. So if you said between 60 and 90, that gives you a point. In November, Canada committed over $500 million to what space agency? And no, it wasn't the Canadian one. It was the European Space Agency. And this is part of a larger outreach program to build relationships with the EU as well as other countries throughout the world. Obviously, and we'll be talking about this later, Canada has had a difficult year in terms of Canada-US relations. And in order to build a bit of goodwill, Canada is getting involved in different programs like the Space Agency and also apparently Eurovision, but we'll see if that actually happens. 4. And I like this question. McGill researchers found people who use editing apps may be perceived as more attractive, but what negative trait is also attributed to those who edit their own photos? For context, when they did this study, they provided photos to participants, and then they would either label it as edited or unedited. So we're looking for what stereotype, basically, do people associate with people who edit photos. And I quote here, those users were perceived to provide lower friendship quality and to be less enjoyable to be with, compared to users who labeled their photos as edited. In other words, there's more of a requirement now on social media to say whether something has been altered by AI or edited in some way. So if you do choose to edit yourself and identify it, people will think that you're more attractive, more boring, and less of a good friend. So you could do what you want with that information, but I think that was kind of cool. And that study was at McGill. And 5, this year, UBC launched a brand new iteration of a toilet. It's 100% waterless, but can you guess how it's sustainably powered? Think of an outhouse toilet and think of how it could be powered. I admire the creativity of these researchers because it's powered by mushroom. Yes, and I quote, the prototype turns human waste into nutrient-rich compost using mycelia, the root networks of mushrooms, and features a modern, sustainable design that can be dropped into parks, remote communities, and areas without plumbing. From what I read, these mushrooms eliminate about 90% of the odor caused by human waste, but I think it's a bit too futuristic to have that in my immediate future. It is interesting, though, to see how far science can push things, and we'll see if it's actually spread worldwide or just limited to the UBC campus where that toilet is at the moment. That's it for science and nature. Next is politics.